Okay guys, we're going to continue on with our introduction and going over just those little relevant concepts that we learnt last year, and we're just going to extend them out. So we're still going to, a lot of this should be familiar to you. If it's not, then it's a chance for you to catch up, and if it is familiar, it's a chance for you just to sort of reaffirm your current knowledge. So today's about resource allocation and opportunity cost. Resource allocation, how to allocate our scarce resources. In that we make decisions and we consider the following. We consider what to produce, mostly determined by the consumer, but not always. When the consumers go out and buy a product in the market, they are telling the market this is the price we are willing to pay. The next point we consider is how to produce. This is from the producer's point of view, and what they will do, they will look at point one when they're looking at the price that consumers are willing to pay, and then they will consider how to produce it at the lowest cost. That's what the whole thing is about. They want to produce at a low cost, sell at a high cost, make a profit. Nobody wants to go into business and lose money, unless of course they're a government. Number three is for whom to produce. They've got to find people who are willing to pay for their product. They may want to mass produce and therefore don't care who buys their product. For example, if they're selling cereal, Wheat Bix, cornflakes, milk, things like that, or they may want to go for a small area of the market, for example, Ferrari cars. So they're looking for which areas of the market are willing to hand over their income and pay for their product. Okay, we'll have a quick look at our assumptions, living in what we call living in fantasy land, or newly termed where Wayne Swan lives. Economists make assumptions when analysing marketplaces. They have to. We know that these assumptions are unrealistic, but as far as your study goes, for Unit 3, Unit 4 in your exam, you need to know what they are. There was a question on last year's VCE paper on these assumptions, and it was done quite poorly. So our first assumption is there are many buyers and sellers. If there was only, say, one seller and many buyers, then you've got a monopoly. And going on from what we learned last year through market failure, we know that they can influence quantity and price. So we need many buyers and sellers. That way, it's impossible. It's not impossible. To predict actions, you know that okay, one person may not want to buy your product, but you know there are many others out there who will. Okay, there is no government intervention. They let the market run purely freely. We know this is not true. Best example is cigarettes and alcohol. They set age limits on there. Okay, all participants have perfect knowledge. Now, in your textbook, you may see consumers have perfect knowledge, and a separate point will be producers have perfect knowledge. I put the whole thing in here. All participants have perfect knowledge. Consumers have perfect knowledge. Otherwise, they may act irrationally, and they'll purchase an item even though it's not the cheapest one available. And producers also have perfect knowledge. That way they know every production and distribution channel, and they're able to keep their costs to the absolute bare minimum. There are no barriers to entry. Anyone can enter the market. That way competition is always guaranteed within the market. This goes back to point one, many buyers and sellers. So if there's no barriers, anyone can get in. High competition, many sellers. Resources are interchangeable. You can move resources from one product to another. We know that's not possible. You cannot use resources. The resources you use to make cornflakes aren't the same resource you can use to make a Ferrari car. But for our purposes, this is what we consider. Resources are interchangeable. And this is going to be a very important point when we discuss opportunity cost in a sec. And products are homogeneous, which means they're pretty much the exact same thing. You just look at a product. There are no characteristics that separate one product from another. The only decision that consumers make to determine which product they're going to buy is based purely on price. That is for our purposes of a perfect competitive market. It is price only. Okay? Right, opportunity cost. You'll know pretty much the concept of opportunity cost. It's the allocating decisions using for our scarce resources. Scarce resources, limited resources, unlimited wants. Therefore, we can't make everything. We're going to have to start making allocation decisions on whether we're going to produce cornflakes or whether we're going to produce Ferraris. Choices have to be made between alternatives. Once the choice is made, the opportunity has been lost to make the other. So if I'm going to use my resource to make cornflakes, I cannot now make Ferrari cars. That's an opportunity I have lost. It's the next best alternative, not chosen. It's measured in real terms, currency, dollars, pounds, euros, whatever. It's the central concept of economics because of scarcity. Okay, the production possibility frontiers are used pretty much to illustrate the concept of opportunity cost, and they show the maximum output of an economy. Okay, so here we've got a PPF, that's a production possibility frontier for you, Joseph. Point here, and points down here. If we're going to use our resources to make agricultural goods only, then this is how many we can make. Point A. 0 on manufactured goods, but point A for agricultural goods. If we're only going to make manufactured goods, then it is point B. Okay, 0 on agricultural, point B here on manufactured. And we join those up with a nice little curve. Through our production, it's not a straight line, it's a nice little curve. Because you can change resources here, there, and you're not necessarily going to use a straight line resources. Because this may be, agricultural goods may be 10,000, whereas manufactured goods, let's say it is a Ferrari car, may only be 2. So it's not a straight line, it's a curve. Okay, so we'll call X our maximum point. This is the point this is our maximum output that we can make. So the maximum, if we produce at point X, we're going to have this amount of agricultural goods and this amount of manufactured goods, and this is the best possible outcome we can have for our current resources. If we are producing at point Y, we are clearly not using our resources well. We're underutilising our resources greatly. If point Y was closer to the curve, you're still underutilising, but not as much as if it is in here. Okay, point Z out here, well, currently the way the system is run, this is unattainable. We cannot get to point Z with our current resources unless there are changes, and we'll look at those in a sec. We'll look at those in the next lecture, sorry. Okay, so here we are. Point X is our maximum point, but for some reason we've decided that we want to make more manufactured goods, or our population has decided it wants more manufactured goods than agricultural goods. We're going to import our agricultural goods so we can make more manufactured goods with our resources. So that's going to be point Y, and we need this number here of manufactured goods. Because we've got point Y now, this is how many agricultural goods. And as I said, it could be anything. It could be decided that we're going to do a great deal with New Zealand or another country, and we're going to import. It's cheaper for us to import agricultural goods than it is to make them. Therefore, we can reallocate our resources straight into more manufactured goods. Okay. So we're moving from D to N, and on our PPF we're moving from X to Y. What is the opportunity cost? I'll give you a quick bit of thinking music to tell me.
A mouse lived in a windmill in old Amsterdam. A windmill with a mouse in, and he wasn't grousing. He sang every morning, how lucky I am, living in a windmill in old Amsterdam. I saw a mouse there on the stair, right there, a little mouse with clogs on. Well, I declare, going clip-clippity-clop on the stair.
Okay, so the opportunity cost of moving from X to Y is C to M, whatever that value is. Okay, now here's very, very important that I want you to really pay attention to. The opportunity cost of moving from D, I'll go back, sorry guys. The opportunity cost of moving from D to N is the value of C to M. So if you asked a question, what is the opportunity cost of moving from here to here, the answer is from here to here. If you are asked, what is the opportunity cost of producing at N? The answer is the value from A to M. To produce at N, that is the opportunity cost, A to M. But to move from D to N, the opportunity cost is C to M. I hope you understand that. If you don't, bring it up when we come into class, okay? That's the lecture for this one.